Hello and welcome to New Central Studios. I'm Felicity Ezewike, here with the stories making headlines beyond the continent. We begin in America, where millions of people are scrambling to leave Florida in the final hours of calm before the storm of the century, which is set to demolish state's coastlines, with trapped locals and holidaymakers told it may be too late for them to flee amid stark warnings they may not survive. U.S. President Joe Biden had earlier begged Florida residents to flee last night, warning that a Category 5 storm could turn into the worst natural disaster to hit the state in a century.
No, I've lived here for about 23 years, so I've experienced as many as I could possibly remember. This is definitely probably one of the more scarier symptoms that we've seen around here, and obviously in preparation for something as strong as that, we definitely know it's going to hit us, so just all the preparation we can for it.
Florida governor is warning the time is running out for evacuation due to the impending landfall of Hurricane Milton. He urges those in evacuation zones to take action immediately, emphasizing the storm's potential to cause significant damage, while noting that a 10-foot storm surge cannot be weathered by simply staying at home, stressing that nature will prevail in such a scenario.
We have a state of emergency for 51 Florida counties. Hurricane Milton is still a major, very strong hurricane. It's currently a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 155 miles per hour. That is just a whisker shy of a Category 5. And while there is the hope that it will weaken more before landfall, there is high confidence that this hurricane is going to pack a major, major punch and do an awful lot of damage. So now we're bearing down to where the storm is going to arrive within the next 24 hours. You still have time to evacuate if you are in an evacuation zone, particularly if you're in Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, those areas. I mean, this track can bounce around. It's not guaranteed it's going to hit there. A lot of the solutions have it going there. You have time to do. If you are in an evacuation zone and you're in places like Sarasota or Charlotte, just know that if you get 10 feet of storm surge, you can't just hunker down with that. That is ultimately the surge. Mother Nature is going to win that fight. So I think it's hazardous to be staying, particularly on those barrier islands in Sarasota County, particularly on the barrier islands and other parts of coastal Charlotte County. And so if you're in an evacuation zone, you can just get up, go to one of the many shelters that are available.
The U.S. election is not stopping in the face of the storm of the century, as thousands of people flee the path of Hurricane Milton less than 2 weeks after the area was battered by Hurricane Helene. Two sides of the political divide are vying for the title of Best Responder. For News Central, Chief International Correspondent Afia Hagen has more.
Long before the outer bands of Hurricane Milton lashed the Florida coast, a political battle over the massive storm was already raging. A potential natural disaster of such magnitude ought to be immune from political opportunism. But in the final weeks of a presidential election featuring a candidate as unrelenting as former President Donald Trump, nothing escapes partisanship, and Milton's aftermath may prove to be the next opening for the ex-president's maelstrom of misinformation. Usually, political shocks caused by hurricanes only unfold when the gale force winds have passed. This time, partly because Trump pushed so hard to exploit last week's Hurricane Helene for his potential gain, the sparring has started early. For Vice President Kamala Harris, the storm offers a perilous spotlight, which could allow her to show she can master the media moment in a presidential context. It could showcase her capacity to express empathy for victims and her command of the federal government machine. But any failures of the federal relief and rescue effort after the storm, which is expected to roar ashore on late Wednesday or early Thursday, could haunt her before next month's election. Harris's test will be complicated by the likelihood that even if the federal effort goes well, Trump is sure to fabricate a story implicating her in failure. Trump has repeatedly shown there's no situation he will not try to leverage for political gain. He seized on Hurricane Helene to bolster his narrative of the Biden-Harris administration as an incompetent rabble, unable to meet the basic needs of the American people. The Harris campaign fought back and sought to revive memories of Trump's checkered disaster management record, debuting an ad featuring two former Trump administration officials claiming that the former president once tried to withhold disaster relief funds from Democratic states. Still, Trump's manoeuvring is the latest sign of one advantage he holds over Harris, despite having a presidential record of his own to defend. As a non-incumbent, he has the luxury of criticising the administration's performance while bearing no personal responsibility. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
Afia Hagan joins us now for more on this. Thank you very much, Afia. What's the latest on the hurricane? Let's start from there.
Yeah, so Hurricane Milton at the moment is a Category 4 storm as it's over the water. It may hit land as a Category 4 or indeed a Category 5, or might downgrade even further from a 5, from a 4 to a 3. Look, what we do know is the storm is massive. It's very, very wide, and it's also causing tornadoes to touch down all over the state of Florida as well. So you saw Governor Ron DeSantis talking there, saying that the time to leave has passed. It's now just after 3 o'clock in Florida. The winds have started up already. The rain is falling very, very heavily at the moment. Winds of about 70 to 80 miles per hour are battling Florida at the moment, and that is just the beginning. So the time to evacuate has gone. In the meantime, whilst Milton has made some landfall, just the edges of it, it is growing in size. So the winds expanded from 105 miles to 125 miles. That's how wide the storm is at the moment, and it is gathering force all the time. And part of it gathering force is those tornadoes, like I said, that are touching down all over Florida as well. So people dealing with that as well as the threat of this hurricane.
Your reports did capture that the hurricane doesn't seem to be stopping politics. Has it been turned into a political issue, like your report captured? I'd like your thoughts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has been turned into a political issue. And that's partly because after Hurricane Helene last week, Donald Trump was very quick to turn it into a political issue by saying that the response by the Democratic government wasn't good enough. When he went to areas like North Carolina and Georgia, he said that those people in those areas, the governors, the mayors, were having trouble getting in touch with President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, a lot of those people have come out to say that that is categorically untrue. And actually, the response has been very, very good. FEMA, the department that deals with responding to emergencies such as this, have had to put a statement out on their website which basically shoots down all this misinformation that Trump has been spreading, saying that they are responding. Trump also went on to say that the money that FEMA would use to deal with disasters like this had gone to illegal immigrants, something else that isn't true. So Trump has turned this into a political issue, which has forced Kamala Harris and Joe Biden to respond. We saw Joe Biden cancelling a trip to Europe. He was supposed to be in Berlin this week, speaking to the leaders of Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. That trip has been cancelled because of the gravity of the situation, but it's also because of optics. He knows that if he is outside of the United States when this disaster unfolds, then he's going to look bad. And actually, the real work begins afterwards. It's the aftermath of this storm. It's how people respond to this storm, how FEMA responds, how the government responds to the storm is really, really going to be what sets the tone, and actually what could set the tone for the upcoming election.
Afia, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you for speaking with us. Let's head on now to South America, where 5 people were shot dead this Tuesday in Ecuador in a new massacre occurring amid a state of emergency due to the increase in violence from criminal gangs. The police reported this, adding that 4 were found dead and 1 died in hospital following complications from injuries. Guayas, where the city of Duran is located, is one of the 6 provinces in Ecuador that are under a state of emergency due to the surge in violence. Violent deaths in Ecuador have skyrocketed in recent years. The homicide rate increased from 6 in 2018 to 47 murders per 100,000 inhabitants in 2023. The executive maintains that the deaths are generally related to settling scores between gangs or territorial disputes over drug sales. Brazil has a new human rights minister, Macae Evaristo. She was sworn in after her predecessor was fired. Evaristo is a legislator from Minas Gerais and has a strong background in education and social work. She is known for being the first Black education secretary in her state and has a strong commitment to human rights. Evaristo takes over the role with a focus on promoting equality and protecting the rights of all Brazilians.
Uma sociedade efetivamente republicana, com direitos iguais para todas as pessoas. Uma sociedade que supere a perversidade do racismo em todas as suas formas de legitimar a opressão e o extermínio de milhões. Que eu quero dialogar especialmente, eu vou dizer, com a população brasileira, aquela que para ela parece que essa palavra direitos humanos parece não fazer sentido nenhum.
Russia condemns Israel's strike on Syrian capital Damascus. We have details when we come back from the short break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's head on now to Europe, where Germany's economy is expected to shrink by 0.2% in 2024, a sharp downgrade from the previous forecast of 0.3% growth. This contraction follows a decline in 2023, making it the second straight year of economic downturn. However, Economy Minister Robert Habeck predicts a recovery in 2025. The German government has slashed its growth forecast due to various economic challenges. Despite this, domestic factors are expected to support the economy, and exports will increase, especially in 2024. However, foreign trade is predicted to contribute minimally to growth.
Konsequenz, dass wir anders als in der Frühjahrsprognose noch gehofft und vorhergesagt, und wir heißt ja alle großen Institute und auch die Bundesregierung, die das wirtschaftliche Wachstum in diesem Jahr von 0,3 plus auf minus 0,2 korrigieren müssen.
Russia has strongly condemned Israel's recent strike on Damascus, Syria, calling it a gross violation of Syria's sovereignty. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova criticized the attack, which was blamed on Israel. Additionally, Zakharova described Israel's ground campaign against Lebanon as an unprecedented aggravation. This comes after Hezbollah launched rocket and artillery attacks on Israel. Russia is expressing concern over the escalating tensions in the region, emphasizing the need to respect Syria's territorial integrity.
Также я хотела бы прокомментировать очередной удар, израильский удар по Дамаску. Он имел место вчера вечером, 8 октября. В очередной раз Израиль грубо нарушил суверенитет Сирии, нанес ракетный удар по многоэтажному жилому дому в густонаселенном районе Дамаска. По данным сирийских властей, погибли 7 мирных граждан, среди них женщины и дети. 11 человек получили ранения, ведется сейчас разбор завалов. Мы решительно осуждаем эту акцию. Кто бы ни был целью атаки, она совершена на территории третьей страны в плотной жилой застройке, что приводит к неизбежным жертвам среди ни в чем не повинных людей. И возмутительно, что подобные действия превратились буквально в рутинную практику, применяемую по отношению к Сирии, Ливану, сектору Газа. Мы вновь настоятельно призываем израильскую...
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged European nations to unite and support Ukraine's membership in the EU. Speaking at the Ukraine Southeast Europe Summit, Zelensky emphasized the importance of unity in the face of Russian aggression. Leaders from Balkan countries, including some EU members and aspiring members, attended the summit. Zelensky's call for unity comes as Ukraine seeks more military aid to repel Russian advances. The summit aims to strengthen cooperation and support for Ukraine's integration into the EU and NATO. Zelensky is also seeking to rally backing from allies amid uncertainty over future U.S. support.
We must ensure that our unity in Europe remains as stable as possible. In Europe isn't united. If it's not united today, it won't be peaceful. So that integration processes that have begun must reach their results.
And in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a video message, has asked Lebanon to free itself from Hezbollah so that the war can end. He says this while also highlighting the possibility of full-blown catastrophe, as has happened in Gaza. He calls on the government to save the country from destruction and suffering.
You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza. It doesn't have to be that way. Each of you can take a step for your future, even a small step. You can make a difference.
To discuss this further, I'm joined now by News Central's senior international correspondent, Adeshawa Josh. Adeshawa, what more can you tell us about Israel's incursion into Lebanon, and what are the implications of the statement we just heard from the Israeli Prime Minister?
Oh, Felicity, today, Hezbollah declared that it repelled 2 Israeli military incursions into the south of Lebanon. You would recall that on Tuesday, we heard that Israel deployed a 4th army into southern Lebanon. At the beginning of the ground invasion last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came around on air to say that it was a limited operation, it was limited in scope, and that it was aimed at returning the displaced Israelis from the north and from the south back to their homes. They fled Hezbollah's attack in the aftermath of Hamas's assault on Israel on October the 7th. Unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is, according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's message, we are now seeing that the IDF is extending its incursion into the south of Lebanon to include not just the southeast, but the southwest. It does not, no one knows how long this operation is going to take. No one knows how many of Israeli soldiers have put boots on the ground in southern Lebanon, as a matter of fact, in southern Beirut. But we do know that an army division consists typically of 10 to 15,000 soldiers. So if Israel is sending its 4th division army into southern Lebanon, as it has announced, then let's just do the math. We could be talking thousands of soldiers already on the ground. So IDF's strategy of bombing paramedics, first responders, and also residential buildings in Lebanon is reminiscent of what we've seen unfold in Gaza in the last year. And also Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement saying that the Lebanese people should take responsibility and then to avoid the sort of scene we've seen in Gaza shows how far Israel is willing to go to put up this great offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon. Felicity.
Okay, there's been speculations that the man who was supposed to replace the slain Hezbollah leader has also been killed by Israel. What can you tell us about this, and what are the implications of that for Hezbollah and for the conflict?
So shortly after Hassan Nasrallah, the longtime leader of Hezbollah, was assassinated by Israel, Hashem Safieddin's name was being floated around as his likely successor. The Shia cleric is Hezbollah's executive council leader and a maternal cousin to Hassan Nasrallah. But after Israel's ground offensive just last week, when it began, it was reported that Hashem Safieddin lost contact with Hezbollah headquarters. And so rumors of his death began to circulate on Israeli media. We heard from Yoav Gallant, Israel's defense minister, saying that it is likely that Safin was in Cuba and Tuesday, as yesterday. We heard from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying, indeed, Safin had been killed in Beirut on Thursday during one of Israel's barrage of missiles on Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Now, Hezbollah hasn't come out to say for sure that Hashem Safieddine is dead. But if that is true, if it is true that Safieddine has been eliminated, this deals another great blow to Hezbollah. As we have seen, its leaders are killed in succession. And strategically, Israel has been targeting, like the head of logistics was killed yesterday. The head of budgeting was killed a couple of days ago. The head of weapons smuggling was also killed a couple of days ago, all in the space of 2 weeks. If it is true that Safieddine is also dead, this is a massive blow for Hezbollah. And we know in a conflict of this nature, eliminating the leaders of such organizations will not only throw off Hezbollah off balance, it might also take time for Hezbollah to stand on its feet while it gives Israel a chance to advance, Felicity.
Alicia, as always, thank you for the update. In Asia, Japan's new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has dissolved parliament ahead of October 27 snap elections. Ishiba, however, wants to add more seats and strengthen his mandate, even though his Liberal Democratic Party has been in power for nearly 20 years and is almost guaranteed to be re-elected. And that's all on Beyond the Continent at this hour. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274. We're also on Avo TV and YouTube. Thank you for watching. I'll see you much later.